Imagine you're playing the world's biggest game of hide and seek. The rules are simple. If someone sees you first, you lose. But here's the strange part. Some animals don't just hide behind things. They actually become the thing they're hiding behind. A stick insect looks exactly like a twig. A leaf insect could fool you into thinking it just fell from a tree. An octopus can change colors within seconds. And a snow leopard almost disappears against snowy rocks. But this raises an interesting question. How did animals ever learn where to hide in the first place? To choose the perfect hiding spot, wouldn't they need to know what they look like? And even stranger, how did some animals eventually gain the incredible ability to change their own colors? Today, we're going to travel back millions of years to uncover how camouflage itself evolved, one tiny step at a time. At first, life on Earth didn't need camouflage at all. The earliest animals lived in oceans where predators were simple and eyesight was incredibly poor. Survival mostly depended on being small, reproducing quickly, or simply being too difficult to catch. But evolution never stays still. Over millions of years, eyes became sharper, brains became smarter, and hunting became much more effective. Suddenly, being easy to see became a serious problem. Every creature now faced a new challenge: either find a way to stay hidden or become someone else's lunch. Now here's where most people imagine something that never actually happened. We picture an ancient insect looking at a tree and thinking, that bark matches my color perfectly, I'll stand there. But evolution doesn't work through planning. It works through tiny accidents repeated over countless generations. Some insects naturally rested on tree bark because they preferred rough surfaces. Others landed on bright green leaves. The insects on bark happened to be harder for birds to notice. They survived a little longer and produced a few more offspring. Their children inherited not only similar body colors but also similar preferences for resting on bark. No one made a decision. Nature simply rewarded the safer choice. This is one of the most powerful ideas in evolution. Behaviors evolve just like body parts do. If one behavior increases survival by even 1%, that tiny advantage slowly spreads through the population. After thousands of generations, what once looked like random behavior becomes a powerful instinct. The animal isn't thinking about camouflage. It simply feels more comfortable in certain places because countless generations before, it survived by doing exactly that. Let's make this easier to picture. Imagine two nearly identical brown insects. One likes resting on tree trunks. The other spends most of its time on green leaves. Every day, hungry birds fly overhead. Against the bark, the first insect blends in almost perfectly. Against the leaves, the second insect stands out much more. Maybe only one extra bird notices it every 100 days. That doesn't sound like much, but over thousands of generations, those tiny differences completely reshape the species. Eventually, almost every insect prefers tree bark. What looks like intelligence is actually millions of years of natural selection quietly doing its job. Camouflage didn't begin because animals changed color first. It often started because they happened to spend time in safer places. Once those behaviors became common, evolution had another opportunity. If living on bark became normal, then individuals born with slightly bark-colored bodies gained an extra advantage. Those animals survived even longer. Generation after generation, their colors slowly shifted closer to their surroundings. In other words, the habitat influenced the body, not the other way around. This is why so many animals seem perfectly designed for the places they live. Desert animals often match sand. Forest animals usually match tree bark, leaves, or soil. Arctic animals become white during snowy seasons. Coral reef fish often resemble colorful corals. The environment didn't suddenly change to fit the animals. Instead, millions of years of natural selection slowly shaped animals to match the environments where they already spent most of their lives. But some species took camouflage to an entirely different level. Instead of evolving one permanent color, they evolved the ability to change colors whenever they wanted. At first, this sounds impossible. How do you evolve something so incredibly complex? Once again, the answer is one tiny step at a time. Long before octopuses became camouflage experts, their ancestors already had pigment cells inside their skin. These cells, called chromatophores, could expand or shrink slightly. At first, they may have been useful for communicating with other members of the species, attracting mates, or showing stress. Then one small mutation allowed slightly better control over these cells. Suddenly, an individual could become just a little darker or lighter. That tiny improvement made it slightly harder for predators to spot. Those individuals survived more often and passed those genes genes to their offspring. Over millions of years, more improvements accumulated. Better pigment cells appeared. More types of pigment evolved. Muscles controlling those cells became more precise. Eventually, the nervous system learned to control thousands of these tiny color cells almost instantly. What started as a simple color adjustment slowly became one of the greatest camouflage systems on Earth. The amazing part is that octopuses don't stand there thinking, "Today, I should become brown." Their brains constantly analyze the brightness, contrast, textures, and patterns around them. Without any conscious planning, nerve signals travel to the skin and activate thousands of chromatophores. Within seconds, their appearance changes automatically. Scientists have even discovered that octopus skin can detect light directly, helping fine-tune these incredible transformations. It almost feels like science fiction, yet evolution built this system one useful improvement at a time. Camouflage isn't only about color either. Shape matters just as much. Stick insects resemble twigs. Leaf insects even copy the tiny veins running through real leaves. Some caterpillars imitate bird droppings because predators rarely bother investigating something that looks so disgusting. Certain spiders resemble flower petals, while some fish imitate floating seaweed. In every case, evolution wasn't aiming for perfection. It simply rewarded individuals that looked slightly less noticeable than everyone else. Now let's look at the battle between predators and prey, because camouflage works differently depending on which side you're on. For prey animals, camouflage is all about avoiding attention. A rabbit hiding in dry grass doesn't want the fox to notice it at all. A deer standing perfectly still among brown trees hopes the wolf walks right past. A frog sitting in muddy water survives because predators never realize it was there. The greatest success for prey is never being discovered in the first place. Predators have the opposite goal. They don't want to stay hidden forever. They only need to stay invisible long enough to get close. Think about a tiger walking through tall grass. Its stripes don't make it invisible everywhere. They break up its outline just enough that deer struggle to recognize its body until it's much closer. By the time the prey realizes the danger, the chase has already begun. Snow leopards use rocky mountain slopes the same way. Crocodiles wait almost completely underwater with only their eyes exposed. Praying mantises disappear among flowers before suddenly grabbing unsuspecting insects. Each predator uses camouflage as a weapon rather than simply a shield. This creates what scientists call an evolutionary arms race. As predators become better at hiding, prey evolve sharper eyesight and better ways of detecting danger. As prey become harder to spot, predators evolve even more effective camouflage. Neither side ever truly wins. Both continue improving together over millions of years. One fascinating detail is that camouflage is only half the story. Behavior completes the illusion. Many camouflaged animals freeze completely when danger approaches. Even perfect camouflage becomes much less effective if the animal suddenly starts running around. Your eyes are naturally drawn to movement. That means staying perfectly still can sometimes be more important than having the perfect color. Think about it yourself. If someone wore clothes that perfectly matched a wall but suddenly started dancing, you would notice them immediately. Camouflage isn't magic. It's a partnership between appearance and behavior. Interestingly, camouflage can sometimes fail. Snowshoe hares turn white every winter because for thousands of years, snow covered the ground. But today, climate change sometimes delays snowfall. The hares still become white while the ground remains brown. Suddenly, their greatest survival tool becomes a bright warning sign for predators. Evolution works over thousands of generations, while climate can change within decades. Sometimes nature simply doesn't have enough time to catch up. When you put all these pieces together, camouflage becomes even more amazing than it first appears. Animals never needed mirrors to recognize themselves. They never needed to understand colors or design better hiding places. Tiny differences in behavior helped some individuals survive slightly more often. Tiny differences in body color helped them survive even longer. Tiny improvements in skin cells eventually allowed some species to actively change their appearance. Over millions of years, those countless tiny improvements created the astonishing camouflage we see today. So the next time you see a stick insect that looks exactly like a branch or watch an octopus disappear against the ocean floor, remember this. You're not looking at a clever trick invented overnight. You're looking at millions of years of tiny successes, carefully stacked one generation after another. Evolution didn't build camouflage with a master plan. It built it through countless small victories that slowly transformed ordinary animals into some of nature's greatest masters of disguise. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed exploring this curiosity, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next adventure. Every week, we dive into fascinating questions about science, history, evolution, and the amazing world around us. Until next time, stay curious.